it going?
Hi, Kelly. It's going all right. How are you?
I'm all right. Happy it's the weekend and looking forward to actually getting on the ice next week.
That's true. We may get to throw some rocks.
Yeah, I mean, it's no game, but practice is better than nothing, right?
I guess so. But hey, listen, we got to talk about something.
So what's happening, Rob? You seem very down and sad.
So this is not easy for me. We've known each other for a long time. We've been teammates for a long time. We've been podcasting teammates for 2 podcasts so far. But I've been going through the analytics, and I really feel that if we made a little change, that maybe we could reach a wider audience of, going from maybe 5 listeners to about 7. So this isn't easy, but I
Are you leaving the latter team? Are you breaking up with us?
not the latter team, but the podcast team. I
Oh
feel like we could get
no.
more listeners if I made a slight change. I really respect you as a podcasting teammate, but I need to continue my relentless pursuit of podcasting excellence. And so this is not easy, but I think we should podcast with other people.
Well, Rob, if that's how you feel, I feel like we should go in different directions and do what's best for this podcasting team and then for your future podcasting goals.
That's it. I hope we can still stay podcasting friends,
Of course,
but
not.
that's right. The hell with you.
I mean, that's pretty much how all curling breakups go, but
That's right. We have good acting skills in addition to podcasting.
that's true. I think, well, I feel with every episode our podcasting's casting skills are getting better. I think now we just got to work on the acting part of it.
Yeah, we've got a ways to go before they start handing out acting awards. But if you haven't figured it out, I guess today's subject is going to be the numerous team breakups and rearrangements that we saw during the COVID shutdown.
That's true. It was quite the news cycle in March. It was like every day there was a new big team change announcement.
It's
And
true.
yeah, we're going to talk about it today.
We kept a group chat, I remember, as well, of us and a couple of other curlers going over all these team changes. And I actually went back on it, and they all happened over about the space of a week.
Well, I guess because the season got cut short, so these announcements would have been made over the summer.
Summer started early this year in curling.
Exactly. And also, I mean, it's not totally unexpected either because this is the last year before the Olympic trials. So all the teams are making all the necessary changes to make sure they have like the best team going into the trials, which are next November, actually. This time next year.
I hope so, anyway.
I hope so too. Well, yeah, I mean, we have to send a team to the Olympics. I don't know how COVID's going to affect that.
It's true. Yeah, I wonder.
Yeah, I actually did. I looked up what, like, who's currently qualified, and there's 2 men's teams and 2 women's teams. But the other qualifications are meant to happen over the course of this year. So the Canada Cup, which was meant to be played next month, which is canceled. So that's a free spot. And then the Scotties and Brier winners, too, will get a spot.
And I think a lot of those teams, or the teams that we always see on TV, have all been on the ice, and they are still getting in their tournaments, from what I see. So they can probably just rearrange the structure to have the trials teams, but
maybe they'll just go by like WCT points and just pick the top, or maybe they'll do Brier Scotties 2.0 and have every province send their best candidate. But I don't know, like, because the problem with that is, the provinces like Alberta or like Manitoba that might have more than one strong team, those 2 teams would go to the trials, whereas through the standard nationals format, only one of them can make it.
yeah, I think they just got to award the top spots.
I think so.
It was going to probably play out like that anyway.
It's true. It's always the same teams, and then a couple wild cards that come through the like the pre-qualifier event. Do you want to start talking about some of the notable changes that happened?
Sure. Hey, maybe we should back this. We should do it maybe chronologically. If actually, no, that's not going to work. It's we just have a list. I don't know what order they're in.
Yeah, I don't remember what order they came out in because
But can we back way up, like back up 10 years even to do like the most famous team change of all, I think?
sure, if you can lead that, go for it.
Yeah, so
My memory doesn't go back that
oh
far.
no, this you'll remember this. I think the
Okay.
most famous one is that Jennifer Jones firing Kathy Overton Clapham.
Oh, yes. I remember this one. This was probably one of the first like major team breakups too, right? And this was post Jones's like first Scotties win. Like she just got onto the map here.
I think though, no, she had been on the map a little bit. Like she had won a couple of Tournament of Hearts, and she had just lost at the Worlds, I think is when it happened. And they had lost it was right after the Vancouver Olympics where they weren't really close to qualifying for. So they played out their Tournament of Hearts, which they won. And then they didn't do so well at Worlds. And then that was it.
Oh, that's true. And okay, correct me if I'm wrong because I may be wrong here. But Kathy O then went to form her another team in Manitoba and beat out Jones for the Scotty spot. Was that it?
It wasn't that, no, because Jones was Team Canada. So she was there.
She came out of Manitoba, but then she beat Jones
She
in that
did.
Scotty's games, and it was a game that everyone was talking about because they were like, "Oh, this is the first time we see on the national stage, or at least on TV, the two, Skip and former Vice go head to head," and it was really. Overton won that one, and it was really like a whole moment. Like the team was crying and everything.
That was something special. I remember actually back in March when there was no sports at all, TSN and all the sports channels started showing old sporting events, and they showed old curling, and they actually rebroadcast that game. I PVR'd it, but it was really interesting. And it was my favorite part is they interview Kathy Overton after the game. The whole audience is going crazy. They wanted to see her win so badly. And she was just, you could tell she was happy, but she kept it together. She kept it collected. And then they interviewed Jennifer Jones, and she's just saying, well, I'm really happy for Kathy. She's such a good friend. But I was thinking, nah, you're angry. You're really angry.
As curling players, like you're meant to keep a professional face, and it's all about good sportsmanship. So it really wouldn't be good for her to start bashing the other team or like her own team. Like you really have to be like, even if you don't think it, you have to say, oh, they played really well and they deserve the win, blah blah blah, even though you're just like fuming inside.
That's right. Fortunately, we don't have to do that. We're letting our opinions be known.
That's true. But unlike our beautiful skit there at the beginning, not all team breakups go down so smoothly.
That's right. That one, by the way, was harsh.
It was, and it came. She was, or Kathy O was blindsided in a way, right?
Absolutely. And I think like now it's interesting to look at because it was 10 years ago, and history will show Jennifer Jones stayed very relevant for the next 10 years. But so did Kathy, I think.
Yeah, she stayed around, and she picked up a couple young girls from Manitoba as well, coming up from juniors, and they had a good run too.
That's it. She got to within one game of the last Olympics. So,
That's like an accomplishment in
yeah.
itself.
So I guess to summarize, just would they have won with Kathy in the last 10 years? I'm going to say yes. I don't think,
I think so too.
it's
Yeah.
no disrespect to Caitlin Laws. She's a hell of a shot maker, but I think they would have been just as good with Kathy.
But I think too, one reason, like it was a smart move on Jones's part too, because they acquired Caitlin Laws right after she aged out, and she would have formed another team, and
Right.
she would have been their main competition
Eliminate
coming
the
out of
competition.
Exactly. So bring her on, and she's a great third. Like Jones definitely has the experience, and Caitlin brings in this fresh new blood onto the team. She was able to dominate the province for the next few years until another wave of girls kind of come up, which they have, which, I feel Jones definitely has had her run, and probably not as sharp as she was 10 years ago, but that's the name of the game.
Yeah, so that's the first really big team breakup that I think of. It got a lot of notoriety, and This is something that we're not particularly, I would say, experts at, because our teams never really went through any. This podcast breakup is the first real team breakup that I've been a part of.
I've had some team breakups.
Okay, but let me qualify that. Like, we've changed teams around, but there's a difference between like this person is aging out or this person has other things going on versus I think I might make 1% more shots if I replaced you with somebody else.
Oh no, we had that.
Oh,
We pulled a Jennifer Jones a little bit. So I'll just say I was on a team and we had two like significant player changes and it was uncomfortable. But you had to do what you had to do. Similar to the Jones thing, I think the next biggest team on the women's curling circuit these days kind of pulled a Jones and did the same thing back in March.
it was really surprising.
I did not see that coming whatsoever.
And of course, we're talking about our friend Adam joining a team out of New Brunswick.
Exactly, that's it. Remember, this guy's he's becoming Mr. Worldwide, playing for so many provinces, so many countries.
That's right. No, of course not.
Jokes aside, yeah, I'm actually talking about the Homan team and how they replaced Lisa Weigel with Sarah Wilkes.
Yes, so I'll let you go first. What are your thoughts on this team change?
I definitely think this change was a result of an internal like team dynamic issue that I can't comment on because I have no idea what it is. But Lisa Weigel is probably one of the best leads on the women's circuit right now. And they've played together for so long. They've been so successful as a team. Yeah, maybe last year wasn't their best like performance. And that happens too, like you can't be riding the high the whole time. So I think there must have been some sort of, team dynamic, some sort of internal issue. All teams have these, internal issues that you don't talk about or that other people don't know. That's the only justification I can come up with because she's an amazing lead.
It's true. She is a shot named after her.
Well, yeah, the Lisa Weigel tick.
Exactly.
She made that shot famous, especially now with the 5 rock rule. And not to say that her replacement, Wilkes, is not a good player. Like, she's definitely, very good and, she's a strong sweeper. But with her now coming into second and Joanne Courtney going down to lead, is it actually going to improve their game?
It's true. And I don't want to comment either on what goes on behind closed doors because what do I know about what goes on?
We literally have no idea what's going on.
Of course not.
If anyone does, though, feel free to hit us up and give us the details.
Yes. So I get it wouldn't be fair to speculate. However, that's what our job is. We are going to speculate. No, but the thing that I keep thinking of is that maybe there was some kind of team dynamic issue, but what issue is so severe that you have to make this kind of earth-shattering change?
I mean, I doubt this would be it, but one of the, major issues, it would be like if someone on the team isn't as committed as everyone else, because in order to reach your goals, like all 4 people have to be able to, or want to put in the same amount of like work and time and commitment.
This was another blindsiding.
Yeah.
That came really out of left field. I don't think anybody expected it.
Also, remember a couple years ago, Homan had not amazing performance at the Olympics. Like they didn't perform as everyone expected, or probably even how they expected them to play. And I think it's not like all their fault. There's a whole other. This is a whole.
That's
other
a whole other episode.
That's a whole other episode. Definitely there were a lot of parts that played into that performance. But that followed by maybe a couple rough runs throughout the seasons, got them thinking and talking. One of the things that I kept seeing in these articles talking about it was that Wilkes kind of comes in as a stronger sweeper than Lisa Weigel. That's probably true, although not that Weigel is a horrible sweeper. She's
And you've
definitely.
already got Joanne Courtney. You don't need another sweeper.
Exactly. I mean, these days now they're all about, oh, one super on the rock, one super on the rock.
That's right. And you might have to, and we have to play by that rule officially with just one.
In my personal opinion, I feel that Lisa's shot making skills as a lead kind of outweigh her maybe less strong sweeping. Like her shot making makes up for it.
I suppose. I've just never liked team breakups over things that are arbitrary, either arbitrary or that we don't understand.
Well, maybe it's not arbitrary. We don't
Maybe
know.
it's not. There could be something going on. It's just I sit here on the outside looking at it thinking, yeah, Sarah Wilkes is great, but is it really worth shattering a friendship and history over whatever? Could you not have patched it up?
That's true.
My hypothetical question.
Yeah, and Lisa Weigel is gone to play with Jennifer Jones. So
Right,
Jones
and
is
that's
just
a whole other topic.
as an alternate. So I'm really curious to see how that's going to happen. Jones already has her foursome, and then Lisa Weigel's too good to to just be an alternate. Like you want to play her, right?
Me too. And with the sport going essentially from a 4-person sport to a 3-person sport, does it really
Yeah,
make sense to have a 5th player anymore?
that's true. Well, also from Lisa's perspective, like she can go on any team she wants, pretty much. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of people in Ontario that would be happy to get her on their team. I'm sure there were some discussions with the Jones team on how they were going to work with having the alternate. And this year is probably great, given the COVID situation. If one man goes down, it's okay. You still got a 4-man team.
That's right. And just another thought on the that I don't think we've covered for the Homan switch up is that with Sarah Wilkes coming in, Joanne Courtney is going to move down to lead. And I was reminded of this because I our thoughts are obviously very important, but they also interviewed Colleen Jones on this. She let her opinion be known, and she was not happy.
Oh, I remember this. Yes.
And I'm reading her quote here. I'm not saying that you can go from second to a lead. I think lead is such a practice skill. Dawn McEwen, she's never played another position. Well, maybe in juniors. The great leads are just genius at it. They go off and throw 92% with ticks. Yeah, well, Colleen knows what she's talking about more than I do, first of all.
Colleen Jones is a reputable source. Like she's been around. She's, had her team issues in the past. So she definitely is an expert.
And I think that's also a very important question to ask is we know Sarah Wilkes is good. We know Lisa Weigel is good. We know Joanne Courtney is good. But Joanne Courtney throwing lead?
I don't know.
Either that there's some adjustment or wasted potential or...
And Joanne, because before she joined the Holman team, Joanne played with, what's her name? Val Sweeting, Alberta. And she was a second there as well, right?
I think she was third even.
Was she?
I think so. They moved around a little bit.
Oh, it's true.
I think she was third, but she wasn't vice.
Okay. There you go.
Listen to our first episode for rants about that.
if you want to know what we're talking about. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And let's say there is a Scotties tournament this year, and that moment that Jones and Holman are going to be head to head, that they're going to talk about it. It's going to be the same. It's going to have the same attention as that Jones versus Kathy O game.
They'll play it up big time.
Oh, for sure. And I hope they do, because one thing that curling's missing is a little drama.
That's it. We're doing our job to provide as much drama as we can here.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to another team. I think this one, I was a little surprised. It's more like an OG team, like a lot of OG players coming together and trying to do another run at the Olympics and nationals. And that's Marianne Arsenault joining Kelly Scott's old team with Gina Schrader back at third. She's been off the map for quite a few years.
As an old-time fan, I'm really excited to see this team.
And Schrader, she was like one of the best thirds of her time.
She was, I think, the best.
Not that her time is over, but back in the day.
But a good 10, 15 years ago, like name a better third than Gina Schrader.
So I hope that she comes back in full force again.
That's it. And there's probably not as much drama to talk about as there was with the Homan team for this team change. But we do have to say, according to what I was led to believe, I remember them making comments about how Marianne was going to retire after last year's Tournament of Hearts. She was moving to BC, and that was going to be it. And here she is again.
Maybe she's pulling a Russ, not a Russ Howard, a Glenn Howard, because Howard and Hart, or at least Hart, he retired, and then 2 years later he came back because he was just like, actually, I still miss playing, and he played for another year again.
For sure. Oh, quick aside here. During the shutdown, a lot of the Curling Canada, and there's other, believe it or not, there's other curling podcasts out there, are putting out footage. I know, I'm not going to give them their, but they're putting out old games on YouTube to watch from anywhere from 15 to 20 to 30 years ago. Some of them are interesting to look back on. And one of them I browsed through over the summer when I was bored in quarantine was they showed Randy Ferbey winning the first of his 4 Briers in a row.
Was this like 1996?
It was 2001, which I only remember by year because I remember being there. It was in Ottawa. And the comment that they make is, the commentator is like, well, Randy Ferbey is really hoping to win this Brier because this will be his last appearance. He's planning to retire. And then 10 years later, he was still around and playing with Brad Gushue even, which is a whole other breakup we have to get into.
Well, you know who also goes into retirement and comes back is John Morris.
That's it. That's another team change.
He's been around the block, or around the country. But he became famous, for lack of a better word, on Kevin Martin's team. And then he left that team after they won their Olympic title. Went to play for BC, retired, came back, decided to just play mixed doubles. So he's only been playing doubles for the past 2 years, I think. And now he's back on Kevin Cooey's team.
That's right, at the expense of Colton Flash.
Yeah, who is now skipping his own team in Saskatchewan, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, I think he's from Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
That was another change that I wasn't expecting. I mean, not that Colton Flash was replaced, but the fact that John Morris decided to play with Kevin Cooey and Ben Hebert as lead, because Ben and John played together on Martin's team a few years back. So now they're back, and I think he's playing. Is he playing second or third?
He is playing second. I think BJ Neufeld is still the third.
Oh, yeah, of course. BJ is not a second. Sorry, BJ. But he's a great third. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see Morris and Hebert playing front end, because they're both very heated men, right? Like they definitely got...
There'll be some passion on that team.
So much passion, to the point that...
And some rocks kicked away violently when they give up big ends, which won't happen very often, but...
Some broom smash. Just, they're very, heated men. And I remember that Kevin Martin team breakup didn't go super smoothly as well.
But it's hard to argue with bringing in a guy like John Morris. The track record
he's
is
amazing.
Pretty good, and I feel like when he's 80, somebody might call on him, and he'll be a pretty good replacement for whoever you need when he's 80. He's that good. Also, the only curler I've ever seen break a broom over his knee.
That's true. I think he's broken a couple over his knee.
Probably. But, one on TV.
Curling's one of those sports, though, that you can get 4 of the best players in each position, and they won't jive well as a team and won't be as successful. Even though you're a great curler and you have the skill set, it does not necessarily mean that the team is going to do well because they got a stacked team. Do you have any predictions as to, if any of these teams will make it out of the Canadian Olympic trials? Like, who do you think might be Canada's next representative?
That's such a hard question because I think back to the other trials and... Well, let's see. Homan won last time for women. Cooey won for men. None of those are real surprises. But if you look back to... I want to look back to the one before it. It was Brad Jacobs and Jennifer Jones. And what I remember is Brad Jacobs in the final was playing against Jim Cotter, John Morris, a team that just formed the year of. And for the women's side, Homan was playing against Sherry Madaw. Sherry Madaw came within one game of the Olympics with I guess not a throw together team, but not a team that had been at the top of the game for the 4-year cycle. And so all this planning, all this team realignment means nothing if you don't get into that final game in November. And very often they don't. So
if you look back in history, it's not uncommon to have these random teams make it really far in the trials. Even, Clybrink, when she won, she wasn't like a dominant women's team on the circuit, or like we didn't see her name as often. Same with Cheryl Bernard too. That team just kind of came out of nowhere. But I think it's because for the trials, they do some spots for people coming in through the points. And, those teams are probably coming out of provinces that have a lot of competition. Like, for example, in Ontario, there's so many good teams. Homan comes out of Ontario most of the time, but other teams in Ontario are very much qualified to play against the other teams that would be going to the Scotties. So I think that's why in the trials, it allows for, because it's not province specific, it allows for these other teams that are really good to just come out of nowhere, and you just get on a good hot streak, and there it is.
So if I had to make a prediction now, I'm going to say...
I think it's hard for the men's, though. There's so many like good teams. Like right now, I think it's definitely going to be up between Jacobs, Gushue, Cooey, Botcher, maybe, like between those four.
That's true. Don't rule out Botcher. I'll say Brad Gushue, just because I haven't mentioned his name yet today.
Yeah, and he's already an Olympian, and I think that was almost 10 years ago too. Was it in Torino that he went?
Yeah, that was 2006. Wow, we're old. 14 years.
Wow. Wow, can you imagine if he won again? I think Jacobs too has already been. So I guess it'd be nice to... I like to see different teams go. So if Cooey makes it, I think I'd be really happy for that team. I think they'll do well. For women's, though, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with anyone not named Jones or Homan, but you never know.
That's one thing I've learned, is just never bet in curling, because there's so many upsets that happen all the time. Like, would you have bet that the U.S. men's team would have won the Olympics, the gold medal?
I never would have predicted.
Like, never in a million years.
Never.
Like, I don't even think they've made the podium in the Worlds in the past.
I know they had an Olympic medal. I know they had a bronze once, but
okay,
I believe that was it.
I do have one notable comeback to mention. And this is one of my favorite international curlers, Thomas Ulsrud.
He's back?
He is back.
Oh.
He's not with the full team, but he's back with Torger at third. And they got two younger or just new guys at the front end. So I'm excited.
That is the first good piece of news I've heard in 2020. The return of Thomas Ulsrud. There is some good in this world.
It would be better if the full team was back, because you know how I love Spa. But no, I'm happy to see him back on the scene. I feel like he's Mr. Congeniality in the curling world, And
the pants.
Those pants.
I've been missing those pants.
He started a whole fashion trend. We should try and get him on for our fashion podcast.
Yes. I've met Thomas Ulsrud once. It was a really funny experience. A story for another day, but...
Yeah, I would love to meet him. I was so jealous when you sent me that picture. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, he was cool.
As we just discussed, there's a lot of team changes and movement going around. And I guess it's not without its fair share of controversies. So I can't think of a specific team, but whenever they make changes, there's always the topic of residency that comes up. Because, so for like the Brier or the Scotties, these are provincial. You have to win your province in order to go. And before, it was all 4 members of the team had to be residents of that province, right? And before, like, this was quite a few years back. But with so many movements and, players let's say some players in Alberta want to play with a good team in Ontario, well, you would have to like move to Ontario, but that's not always possible for everyone. So the residency rules have started to like change quite a bit. I know there's been some discussion too of just like abolishing it completely and just have kind of like a free for all. But I went onto the Curling Canada website to actually see what the rules are, because I feel like this topic always comes up and no one really knows what the rules are.
That's right. I think I knew at one time, but they've since been relaxed even
Mm-hmm.
more from what I once knew.
And I know that I think last year Homan's team, there was some controversy as well too, because Homan technically doesn't live in Ontario anymore.
Hmm.
And I think Joanne Courtney is probably still in
That's what I
Alberta
was
as
reading
well.
about when and Sarah Wilkes is still living in Alberta, but she was born in Ontario. So three of them
Yeah,
actually live in Alberta, but because they were or two of them were born in Ontario, Emma's still born and I believe still lives there. They're good to play out of Ontario, but that's causing a lot of people in Ontario are not very happy about that.
yeah, people were not happy at the last year's provincials. But let me go through the list of the rules. So first, obviously, you need to be a Canadian citizen and a good standing in your curling club and part
Pay
of
your club
the
fees, people.
pay your dues, which I actually have to do.
Yes, good reminder.
You cannot have obviously competed for any other country in the World Curling Federation. Every team is allowed one free agent. And I think this is a new rule. So the free agent can come from any province or any 14 member associations within Canada. So that would be like Joanne Courtney, for example. Then the other three players need to satisfy one of these couple rules. So one, they have to be a bona fide resident of the province. So this would be like Emma Miskew, who's living in Ottawa. Two, be born in the province or territory in which they intend to represent. Note there are special circumstances here. So in
Hmm.
cities like Lloydminster, where the city is split across two provinces, the person has to pick which province they want to like associate with. So
The
you got your
Lloydminster
choice.
dilemma.
The Lloydminster dilemma. Same for in Ontario. So the current Ontario and Northern Ontario border for curling will determine if a player will play out of Northern Ontario or Ontario.
Do we have that for Hull Gatineau?
Uh, well, Hull,
I
if
know
you're
it's
Hull, if your residency is Hull or you're born in Hull, you're Quebec,
they are
and
two
then
different
Ottawa is
cities,
Ottawa.
Ottawa. It's just they're right
They
there.
are
And also, if you had the choice, you would play out of Quebec for sure.
for sure easy win. However, if you are a Canadian citizen but you were not born in Canada, you are not eligible for this option. The last option is if you are a full-time student, you can choose to play in the province or territory where you're attending school or where you maintain your main like residence. So even if you're, from Ottawa studying in Alberta, like Rachel Homan is doing, she can still play for both or one or the other. Or you can play in the province you're born or play as a free agent. So basically, if you're a student, you have like the most options. If you're going to school, so I guess if you want to play for a team that's on the other side of the country, just enroll yourself into school. You're good to go.
That was so confusing. It was.
Was it?
I don't want to be the person from Curling Canada that has to actually check this for all the people that sign up teams. It's.
Yeah.
I'm a traditionalist. I like the old province versus province and actually having to live there. I know that it's kind of crazy to ask Alberta to go up against another province like Quebec, where we are, where there's a lot fewer teams. But I like the tradition of it. I know it
And
makes sense to loosen up on that, but
that's what it was like before, right? Just 10, 15 years ago. Anyone who came out of a province lived in that province. And it's only recently that there's just so many player movement from province to province.
mhm. I agree, and I'm not going to make many friends in Ontario here, but even though I think, according to my vision, this Homan team, for example, Homan team, not rink, should
Oh
play
god.
out of should play out of Alberta. But let's be honest, Alberta should have their own representative, and Homan should be at the Tournament of Hearts. It's going to be weird to have one of them stay home, although I would like the traditional part of that.
It's hard because our country's so big and the provinces aren't all equal. Just look at the Maritimes in Quebec. Like we can
Oh,
barely get four good teams to
but it does
compete.
work the other way, because speaking of the Maritimes, I remember watching the Brier this year and looking at the Prince Edward Island team. I was saying, those guys look familiar. I feel like I've played them, but I've never curled on Prince Edward Island. And then they explained it, and three of them, I believe, live in Ottawa and curl in Ottawa. And I'd been to a tournament where one of them was doing the ice, the other was playing, and but they were all born on Prince Edward Island, so they got to represent the province.
If I were in that situation too and really wanted to go to the Scotties, like I would totally make full use of this rule.
Hmm.
Because
So it works both ways.
yeah, it does work both ways. But yeah, I guess only I'm sure as time goes on too, like these rules are gonna change, and because the sport is just ever evolving ever so much. All right, Rob. So do you want to quickly go through the list of other team changes?
Yeah, because there were a lot, and we've spent pretty much the whole time talking about just two or three of them. But what else do we have here?
I took a quick look at the list before too, and some of the names I don't even recognize, which is a little bad on my part. But let's go
So
rapid fire.
let's see. All right, rapid fire. So I'm going to name a team change. You tell me what you think. Okay, so here's a new team: Kelsey Rock, Danielle Schmiemann, Dana Ferguson, and Rochelle Brown. Chelsea Carey's old front end.
Yeah. Oh, that's one person we didn't talk about. Is Chelsea Carey?
Chelsea Carey has no team, to my knowledge, in all of this.
Chelsea Carey has no team. So I saw at the end of last year how her team was disbanding. And I tried to find articles or anywhere mentioning if she's got a new team this year, and I still couldn't find anything.
Me neither. The only thing I found is that it said if she wants to pursue the Olympics, she'll have to do it for doubles because she doesn't have a team. But you know what? Let's come back to this, because maybe, remember how you were asking who I think is going to win the trials? Maybe she comes out of nowhere with people we don't even know yet and wins it. It would be a very Chelsea Carey thing to do.
There's speculation that she might go back to Manitoba, her home province.
So
very
interesting. So that's one. We also have Jason Gunlickson's team made a change. Adam Casey moves up to third to replace Alex Forrest. And in comes Matt Wozniak at second and Connor Negevin at lead.
I like Wozniak, although I miss the team when he played with BJ and what's his name? This guy?
Yeah, with Mike McEwen.
Mike McEwen. I like that team. They're so sweet.
Okay, cut.
What?
Oh, you're the only person I've ever heard say that about them.
Yeah, I don't know. I like their team. I think I really like BJ. I mean, especially when they first came on the scene, I really liked them. And obviously, like they kind of went down. Like they kind of went like this, and then kind of like down.
I think for me, it was just because like they're the most serious guys ever. They always had this kind of demeanor. And
that's true. It really
like Wozniak is not like that to me, but the rest of them, like BJ, Mike, and Denny, are always so monotone.
Do you know here Wozniak's dating one of the players, one of the Swiss players?
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, that's my thought on the team change.
Yeah, it's good to see Wozniak back.
Yeah. No, I like him.
Here's another team change. Robin Silvernagel, the big name in Saskatchewan the last couple of years, had Stephanie Lawton, Saskatchewan legend, at third, who has now moved on.
Well, here's the thing with Steph Lawton, though. She's been around the Saskatchewan circuit for so long, and she's had good teams. She just never won.
She's never made it to that next level.
She just can never get there.
I mean, they broke through in Saskatchewan with Robin Silvernagel, but they never got much further, I guess. So Kristen Streifel is the new third.
I heard though that this team, Silvernagel basically merged her team with the next big team in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, Kristen Streifel is very up and coming.
Yeah, so a power merger.
I think so. Well, there's this one we already mentioned, Marianne Arsenault in BC. The only thing I want to add to that quickly is that I'm very sad that team is back without Kelly Scott. I can't imagine a team like that without having Kelly Scott. Whenever I hear 9.5. 9.5,
Tina!
Exactly.
I hope she comes back as like an alternate, or maybe like a coach or moral support.
They need to have her there in some capacity.
I'm sure we haven't seen the end of Kelly Scott yet.
And I think we have one more. We have, let's find it here. We've got Colton Flash, Caitlin Schneider, Kevin Marsh, Dan Marsh.
I have no idea who these people are besides Colton Flash.
Catlin Schneider, we've seen a few times. He's on whatever team comes out of Saskatchewan most of the
Was
time.
he on Dunstone's team? What was
Yes.
that team that came
Oh,
out
and that's
last
one
year?
other new team. Matt Dunstone, Braden Muscowie, Kirk Myers coming into that, and Dustin Kidby.
Yeah, Kirk Myers, he was skipping his
own team.
Yeah.
He
I think
had
that may be a team to watch.
I think on paper that's the team to beat in Saskatchewan.
For sure. It's funny, for a province that is pretty big on curling, like I am surprised that they're not like at Alberta's level.
Yeah, I've looked it up. They haven't won a Brier in 40 years.
40 years?
40-year drought.
Oh my god.
So if you're in Lloydminster, you're going to play out of Saskatchewan.
When was the last time they won the Grey Cup?
Oh. Low. At a moment where they forgot how to count to 13. They have won since then, I think. I don't remember when. Maybe like 6-7 years ago, something like that.
Okay, so they're due for another Brier win.
They are. And
Good thing there's only 4 people on a curling team, and I'm pretty sure they can count to that. So if you don't know what we're talking about, there's this infamous Grey Cup game where the Montreal Alouettes,
the championship of Canadian football for our international listeners.
Almost as big as the Super Bowl.
In Canada, at least.
And the Rough Riders were on their way of winning that cup. And then they got busted.
Montreal had a field goal for the win, which they missed. And so Saskatchewan thought they had won.
But, too many men on the field. And so they had to, Montreal got to kick that football again.
And they won.
And
then the next year when they played each other again, the exact same thing happened to end the game. Saskatchewan had won, and they took another too many men on the field penalty. It was hilarious.
I think they need to revamp their math program.
So before we get in too much trouble, that's all the team changes, or all the ones that we kept track of. I'm sure there were many more.
For sure. And, it'll be really interesting to see if there are any new teams that make it onto the scene.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see if there actually is any curling to see where they go.
There have been some smaller tournaments that have been happening. Like all the slams so far have been canceled. And we'll see if any of like the Worlds, the Europeans will play. Brier, Scotties, what's going to happen this year. We'll just have to wait and see.
And hey, before we go, the biggest team change of all, we didn't talk about Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski going to Tampa Bay.
Rob, this is going to have to be a whole separate episode. This is going to be our off-season Rogue episode. I am still not happy of that move. I think both of them should have stayed in retirement. And I think, I'm happy that Edelman is still with the Patriots. If he had made the move, I would have, I don't know what I've done.
Yeah. Stay tuned for our football episode.
Stay tuned. All right. Well, until next time. Bye.
See you later.